I'm Ryan. I'm the head painter and artist at Kustoms. I really love to work on motorcycles. Ever since I was knee-high, I loved two wheels.
Check this out, man. I got something that you ain't seen yet.
You haven't shown me something?
Nope.
For years, Counting Cars fans were convinced something dramatic had gone down behind the scenes and that Ryan Evans had quietly been pushed out of the show. The rumors spread fast. Reddit threads turned into full-blown investigations. YouTube explanations claimed there had been fallout, tension, and even secret conflicts inside Kustoms. The more time passed without a clear answer, the more convincing the story became. So why did fans think Ryan Evans disappeared from Counting Cars? And what really happened that made the internet believe there was a hidden scandal all along? Join us as we uncover the truth behind Ryan Evans, the military kid who found his canvas in a t-shirt. Before Ryan Evans was the quiet force behind every striking paint job that rolled out of Kustoms, he was just a kid from a military family with a story that most of his fans have never fully heard. Ryan Evans was born into a career military family. The military upbringing meant that he had the experience of building a sense of self in constantly shifting environments. He grew up attending Frankfurt American High School in Frankfurt, Germany, graduating in 1992, which places him among the children of American service members who spent their formative years in a country that was not their passport nationality. The military family detail is not incidental. Children of military parents who move between bases and countries tend to develop either a rootlessness that never resolves or a deep independence that grounds them in who they are rather than where they are. The Ryan Evans, who would later describe his own work style as quiet and precise and methodical, the man who would spend hours at an airbrush creating work that required sustained concentration over long periods, was shaped in large part by a childhood that required him to find something portable to anchor himself to. That something turned out to be art. The origin story of how he discovered airbrushing is one that he shared on Twitter, and that has been quoted in multiple profiles since. He was 7 years old when his parents brought him a t-shirt and a bag full of sand and seashells. The t-shirt was a souvenir. The sand and shells were just vacation trinkets. But something about the object, something about the specific combination of the physical item and the visual image on it, caught his imagination and stayed there. He began to understand, in the way that very young people sometimes understand things about themselves before they have the vocabulary to explain it, that making images was something he needed to be doing. He was also, from early on, drawn to motorcycles. He has described bikes as canvases on two wheels, a phrase that captures exactly the way he sees the world, not as a mechanic who appreciates aesthetics, but as an artist who happened to find his preferred surface in vehicles. He began airbrushing seriously in college, developing the technical skills that would eventually make his work recognizable to anyone who had spent time looking at the output of Kustoms. The path from a military kid with a t-shirt and a bag of sand to the head artist of one of the most famous custom shops in Las Vegas was not a straight line, but it was always moving in one direction. So what was the specific moment that brought Ryan Evans into Danny Coker's world, and why did the meeting happen the way it did? The man who saw the work before the world did. The story of how Ryan Evans ended up at Kustoms begins with his art being seen in the right place at the right time by the right person. By the late 1990s, Ryan had developed enough of a reputation in Las Vegas for his airbrush work on motorcycles that his vehicles were being noticed around the city. The bikes he had painted were visible enough and striking enough that they were drawing attention from people in the automotive customization world. In 2000, Shannon Aikau, the Hawaiian-born bike shop manager and lead builder at Kustoms, saw Evans' work on the street and understood immediately that the person who had created it needed to be in the shop. Shannon introduced Ryan to Danny Coker, and the meeting went the way meetings between two people who immediately understand each other tend to go. Danny showed Ryan his car collection, which was already over 100 vehicles and built around the combination of color, flair, and period-correct aesthetics that Ryan had been developing his own artistic approach independently. They were speaking the same language before they had exchanged more than a few sentences. Ryan started at the shop. The Count's Customs operation in 2000 was not yet the television entity it would become. It was a genuine working shop with a genuine working culture, and Evans started in the paint bay doing what he had always done, applying color and graphics to vehicles with a level of precision that few people in the industry could match. The History Channel discovered Count's Customs and the larger network that connected it to Pawn Stars, leading to Counting Cars premiering on August 13, 2012, as a spin-off of the History Channel's broader Las Vegas-based reality programming universe. Ryan had been at the shop for 12 years before the cameras arrived. The History Channel's official cast description of Ryan Evans described him as Danny's right-hand man in conceptualizing and completing each project, and noted that his dedication to his craft was surpassed only by his grace and patience in dealing with his colleague Horny Mike. He made his first appearance in Season 1, Episode 1, titled McQueen for a Day, and appeared in over 100 episodes across the show's run. His net worth is estimated at approximately $3 million, reflecting over 2 decades of professional work, television income, and the sustained value of the skills he has developed. For context, Danny Coker's net worth is estimated at $15 million, a gap that reflects the difference between owning the shop and being the most skilled person in it. And then the show ended, and the internet decided it knew exactly why Ryan Evans had disappeared. It was almost entirely wrong about every single thing it claimed. So, what were the actual rumors, and where did they come from? The theft accusation that was never about Ryan Evans. When Counting Cars aired its final episode in December 2021 after 10 seasons, the absence of clear information about what would come next created the vacuum that internet speculation always rushes to fill. Fans who had watched the show for years began constructing narratives about what had happened, and Ryan Evans became a specific target for some of the more damaging of those narratives. The most serious and most widely circulated accusation was that Ryan had stolen money from Count's Customs. The claim spread through online forums, comment sections, and eventually into media outlets that should have verified it before publishing. It was treated by a significant portion of the online automotive community as established fact rather than rumor. It was repeated enough times that it developed the kind of false authority that comes from wide circulation rather than from any actual evidence. The theft that actually occurred at Count's Customs involved a former employee named Joseph Frontiera, not Ryan Evans. In 2016, Joseph was accused of stealing money from the company and using it to make a down payment on a Range Rover and purchase personal items. Joseph was a real employee. The accusation against him was real, and the incident was covered by the media at the time. But when the story circulated online in the years after the show ended, the specific name attached to the theft accusation became blurred or deliberately confused, and Ryan, as a recognizable face from the shop, ended up in the frame for something he had nothing to do with. The confusion may have been innocent in some cases, the result of people misremembering or misattributing a story they had half-read years earlier. In other cases, it appears to have been something less innocent, a willingness to attach a dramatic narrative to a familiar face without checking whether the face matched the story. Danny Coker addressed this rumor directly and forcefully in an interview, calling it a horrible rumor. He described Ryan as having been with him for 25 years and as someone he considered like a brother, like family. He said they truly loved each other like family and pushed back hard against any suggestion that the theft accusation had anything to do with Ryan. Horny Mike, another member of the Count's Customs crew who has a significant social media presence, posted an Instagram video defending Ryan and confirming that he remained an important and valued member of the shop. The theft rumor was the most damaging of the false stories circulating about Evans after the show ended. But it was not the only one. So what else did the internet decide was true about Ryan Evans? And why was that also completely wrong? The firing rumor and the pattern of getting it wrong. Alongside the theft accusation, several other narratives about Ryan Evans circulated in the years after Counting Cars ended. Each of them followed the same pattern, a plausible-sounding explanation for his reduced visibility that was presented as fact without any supporting evidence, and that turned out to be false when examined against what was actually documented. One of the most controversial rumors held that Ryan had been fired from Count's Customs after the show ended. The theory constructed around this claim suggested that his departure from the television show indicated a departure from the shop, and that the departure from the shop had been involuntary. People sharing the theory pointed to his reduced social media presence and his absence from the later season's most visible moments as circumstantial evidence of a falling out with management. The documented reality, confirmed by Count's Customs' own official website, is that Ryan is still employed at the shop as head artist and paint shop manager. His biography page on the official website credits him as the creative influence behind Count's Customs projects and documents his professional achievements, including the SEMA Best in Show Award. A person who has been fired from a company is not typically credited on that company's official website as its head artist and creative influence. Danny Coker confirmed this directly, telling interviewers that when he visited the shop, both Horny Mike and Ryan Evans were present and working. It was, as Danny Coker put it, business as usual. The shop was operating. The work was happening. The people who had always done the work were still there doing it. Another theory that circulated suggested Ryan had left because he was unable to meet the production deadlines that the television format required. The claim positioned his careful, precise, time-intensive artistic process as incompatible with the pace the show demanded. This narrative had a certain surface logic to it because Ryan's work genuinely does take time. The kind of detailed airbrush work he produces cannot be rushed without degrading the quality. This rumor also turned out to be false. It was, according to reporting on the situation, simply a fan theory that spread online after the final episode aired, with no factual basis in any documented dispute about his work pace or his ability to meet deadlines. The show itself documented many of his builds across 100+ episodes without any indication that his pace was ever a source of conflict with management or a problem for the production schedule. His reduced on-screen presence in the later seasons appears to show the natural evolution of a show that ran for 10 seasons and adjusted its focus and cast dynamics over time, rather than any falling out or professional failure. The distinction that observers of the show have made is an important one. Being less visible on television is different from having a problem with your employer. Ryan Evans was less visible on Counting Cars in its later seasons. Ryan Evans was not less employed at Count's Customs or less valued by the people running it. Now that we've uncovered how completely the internet got Ryan Evans wrong, here is the question that matters most. Who is the real person underneath all of those false narratives? And what has he actually been doing all along? The artist the show could never fully capture. The version of Ryan Evans that appeared on Counting Cars was real, but it was necessarily partial. A television show built around personality conflicts, dramatic reveals, and time-pressured builds could not fully accommodate someone whose most important professional quality was the sustained, quiet, unhurried precision with which he approached every surface he was given to work on. Ryan received the Airbrush Action magazine's choice for SEMA's Best In-Show Award in 2015 for the custom paint and graphics he created for a 1973 Boattail Riviera. SEMA, the Specialty Equipment Market Association show held annually in Las Vegas, is the most significant automotive industry trade event in the United States. Best in Show at SEMA is not a fan vote or a popularity contest. It is a recognition by professionals in the industry that the work being evaluated is the best of what was presented in that specific year. Evans won it for a single car, in a competition that included entries from the most skilled custom builders in the country. The fact that this achievement has been largely absent from the public conversation about Ryan Evans, while the false theft accusations dominated, says something about how public narratives around television personalities get formed and maintained. The thing worth knowing about him, the professionally relevant and genuinely impressive thing, got crowded out by a story that had no basis in fact. He married Dana Pauly in March 2015, and they have built a family life in Las Vegas that has been deliberately private throughout the years of the show's run, and since its conclusion. He has a stepson, Logan, from Dana's previous relationship, and 2 additional children of his own, Kylie and a younger child. The family dimension of his life has never been a significant part of his public profile, partly because he does not push it forward, and partly because the television show was more interested in the professional dynamics of the shop than in the personal lives of its employees. And in that gap between what is shown and what is left unsaid, the audience often builds its own explanation. Not because it is necessarily true, but because it feels complete. And once that kind of narrative takes hold online, the question becomes harder to answer. Are people reacting to reality, or to the version of it they created themselves? The full picture. The story of Ryan Evans and the Internet's version of Ryan Evans sits at the intersection of 2 things that the social media era has made genuinely common and genuinely damaging. The first is the tendency to interpret absence as evidence. When a familiar face disappears from the format that made them recognizable, the assumption that something dramatic caused the disappearance is so automatic that people begin constructing the dramatic event before checking whether one actually occurred. The second is the way that false stories about public figures accumulate authority through repetition rather than through verification. The theft accusation against Evans did not become widely believed because no one found evidence for it. It became widely believed because it was repeated often enough, in enough different places, that readers encountered it multiple times from sources that appeared independent of each other but were all drawing from the same original falsehood. Danny Coker's visit from a journalist who went to the shop specifically to report on its current status, and who was allowed into the working areas and confirmed that Evans and Horny Mike were both present and active, represents the kind of primary verification that most of the rumor-spreading coverage had never bothered to seek. The truth was accessible to anyone who looked for it. Most people did not look. They repeated instead. What the full picture of Ryan Evans actually reveals is someone whose career has been defined by consistent excellence in a specific and genuinely difficult craft over a period of more than 2 decades. He walked into Danny Coker's shop in 2000 with a reputation built on the work that Shannon Eichow had seen on Las Vegas streets. He is still in that shop in 2026, still listed as its head artist and creative influence, still winning industry recognition for specific builds. The 25 years between those 2 points are not a story of dramatic events. They are a story of someone who found the thing they were supposed to do and kept doing it without requiring the world to pay attention. The SEMA Best in Show Award should be the headline of every piece written about Ryan Evans. Instead, it barely appears in most coverage, while demonstrably false accusations about financial crimes take up the space. That imbalance is not a reflection of what Ryan Evans has done with his career. It is a reflection of what certain corners of the internet do with people who have been on television and then become less visible. He was not fired, nor is he a thief. He did not have a falling out with the man who described him as like a brother. And he did not fail to meet deadlines or end up walking away from the career he had spent his adult life building. Did the internet's obsession with the mystery of Ryan Evans say more about reality television culture than it did about what actually happened? Should reality TV shows be required to communicate with audiences when production changes affect cast visibility? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.